Human rights lawyer Femi Falana has called on the federal government to order the release of Abdulrasheed Bawa, the suspended chairperson of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Recall that President Bola Tinubu suspended him on June 14th and suspended Bawa to allow for a proper investigation into his conduct while in office following weighty allegations of abuse of office leveled against him.
Falana said the order obtained by DSS to remand Bawa is no longer valid, and the Security Service ought to have released the suspended EFCC chairman since no criminal charge has been filed against him. Joining us now is lawyer and public affairs analyst Libros Oshoma. Good morning, Mr. Oshoma. Thanks for joining us. Can you help us unmute your device? It seems you're still muted, so we can get feed from it. But let's get you to quickly share your thoughts on the Abdulrasheed Bawa's travails. Of course, just like Femi Falana said, he cannot be detained for more than 56 days or remanded for more than 56 days. Of course, if there is no charge, brought against him, then he should be released. Are we seeing, a DSS doing the same things it has always done, all through the Buhari administration, which is, complete high-handedness, playing out once again here?
First and foremost, thank you. My mic wasn't muted, it was from your end. It is not only the DSS. You remember when Ibrahim Magu was removed as the EFCC chairman, he also was arrested and then detained without preferring charges against him until the panel sat. Preliminary investigations were conducted, and at the end of the day, nothing happened. Even the DSS themselves, as I speak to you now, there are some persons in DSS custody for the past 3 months that have not, been charged. They use, they procure court orders and then use that to detain people unlawfully. All of these actions are, or traverse the law and very, very, very wrong. Today, it is bad. And those people that are detaining him should also know that, just the same way Bar under EFCC under Bar detain people unlawfully, and today he's been detained, and that someday it will get to their time. We can't continue to run a legal system like this and the whims and caprices and dictate of security personnel and expect that people will trust our society, expect that genuine businessmen will put their faith in our legal system. So and that's why every well-meaning Nigeria should call, irrespective of the sins of Bar, in as much as it's not been charged to court, every well-meaning Nigeria should call for his release and the release of other persons who are also held in custody, whether in DSS, whether in EFCC, whether by the police, whether by the military, and had not been brought to court. The law is a vehicle for social engineering. Law ordinarily should develop and enhance a better society. But a situation where people now begin to use the law, for their whims and caprices. Yesterday I tagged it prosecutorial prosecution, because it becomes, there's a thin line between prosecution persecutorial prosecution. It's a thin line between prosecution and persecution. So what you have now is persecutorial prosecution. It is no longer prosecution because you arrest a man, you keep him incommunicado, there is no charges against him, there is nothing in the public to say, okay, this is where the investigation is. There is no briefing whatsoever. And you just leave it there and expect that the rest of us will keep quiet. We can't keep quiet, no matter the sins that he has committed, But you don't wish even your enemy to be held incommunicado in such, to be held by the DSS in such circumstances.
Mr. Oshoma, some have said that it is quite hypocritical of us as Nigerians, seeing that our president is the chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, and we've seen ECOWAS's position on the coup in Niger, and ECOWAS's position is basically to restore democracy. So some have said that it is quite hypocritical that whilst we're seeking to establish democracy in another country, back here in Nigeria, democracy is being upturned. Section 296 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act provides for the procedure by which this remand can, be done legally, which accumulates to up to 56 days. As of today, should be about 70 days that Mr. Bawa has been held in custody. What does this say about Nigeria's democracy and the projection of where we're going where we're going to with our democracy?
Are we really practicing democracy? That's the first question you should ask yourself. What we have is a civil rule and not a democracy. Democracy, we all know the definition of democracy: government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Can you truly, in all honesty, say since 1999 that what we've had is a government, of the people? Can we say that this government is government for the people? What we have are civilian who cloaked in democratic garb. And so that's why any government that comes, they look for perceived enemies without procedures. And at the end of the day, some of these persons are thrown behind bars. And then we look for, one court order or the other to, consistently keep them there. Yes, because we also can point to examples of these same people committing the same crime. There were times where, on 2 occasions, Bawa was cited for contempt by court. One in Kogi, another one in Abuja. Emefiele, the same thing. But that does not mean we should now fold our hands and allow the law to be rubbished like this. And like you rightly said, if we are talking about coup in Niger, these are some of the activities that led to the coup, the military intervention in Niger. And so a situation where the civilians become high-handed also. What we're indirectly telling people is that there is no need to obey the laws. So I completely agree with you that it's hypocritical. You're saying that, look, you want to promote democratic tenets and norms and values, and yet just right in front of you, you are violating one of the fundamental rights of democracy, which is, protection of human rights. And it is Bawa today, it can be anybody tomorrow. And as I speak to you, it shouldn't just be about Bawa, including people who are in EFCC custody presently, who are ahead and have not been charged for more than 70 days. So it should be all encompassing, because what goes around comes around. And so if tomorrow, you remember in 1983, when the military had people with Decree 2 without trial, some of them, panels were set up and then condemned to jail for 99 years and co. That's akin. This situation is akin to what we had there. A situation where democratic government is arresting people without complying or following the processes of the law. For me, I do not see a difference between it and military rule.
We had a couple of these issues under former AGF Malami. We now have, of course, a new Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi. Do you expect that things would be different? And not just under Lateef Fagbemi, it's generally, it's a new government in office. We expect that there will be a new attitude towards some of these things. Or do you think that maybe the DSS as a body is untouchable? And of course, the new president, new ministers, none of that will be able to change the status quo. And of course, let these agencies of government actually respect the Nigerian Constitution and respect the Criminal Justice Act.
It is not government, politicians, are true to type. And like I always say, blessed are those who are not expectant, for they shall not be disappointed. I'm not expecting any new thing from Nigerian politicians, ditto African politicians. But it is for us as a people to point the right direction and insist that the right thing must be done. I told you, the new Attorney General is a seasoned bar person, a practicing lawyer that is seasoned, is known in his activities at the bar. But there is it's wearing two caps here. One as Attorney General of the Federation, and secondly, as the Minister of Justice. So how well he is able to distinguish between these two offices and advise the government properly, it will determine how well he will go in his office. But it is for us also as a people to consistently point out the right direction for the government. A situation where, first and foremost, the Attorney General should be able to tell the government, irrespective of the position, to learn to obey court orders. The last Attorney General, I feel ashamed sometimes anytime, I discuss the attitude of the last Attorney General to court order. So this Attorney General should, as a matter of urgency, learn to put his foot down that government must obey court order, whether valid or otherwise. And then secondly, also, he should also remember that as the chief law officer of the entire federation, is the Attorney General of everybody. He should learn to protect both the weak and the strong. And Bauer is one of those, no matter how strong he is. Today he is a weak man, held by the DSS. He should also, I had expected that upon resumption of office, the first thing should be, not like Wike, who is already breathing down the neck of people. I expected him to be empathic with the plight of those living in Abuja. Sorry for that digression. I had expected the new Attorney General to issue upon assumption of office, to issue directive to ministries, parastatals, and agencies on compliance with court orders, and then also to file charges in places where people have been held, in violation of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, to bring up charges against such persons or release them to go, until they put their acts in order. But unfortunately, we are not seeing that. Let's still give him some time out there. But while you're giving him time, somebody is held against the provisions of the law. So, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, no matter the good he's doing, if his human rights record, starting from Bauer and Emefiele, if his human rights record is tainted, I bet you those are what people will remember him for, irrespective of the good that he's doing.
Now, this unfortunate situation, in some measure, some would say that this has been disrespectful to the courts as, the temple of justice that it is. I'd like to find out exactly how lawyers around the country are reacting to these scenarios, and maybe if there is anything whatsoever that the lawyers can do, that the judiciary can do. Whilst we talk about the upholding and respecting of the judiciary, upholding and respecting its independence, and regarding it as a temple of the upholder of justice that it is, what role can lawyers play? I know that these conversations come up in circles. How are they reacting to it, and what roles can they play?
Yeah, in Nigeria, lawyers are never unanimous in matters like this. Some people are indifferent because some of them have also felt the bite and the pain of the EFCC's, sting. I have a client. Ordinarily, you expect me also to be indifferent. But because of my practice and my posture and my humanity, I will not be indifferent. I've had clients that were held, consistently, despite court order, by EFCC, under Bauer. So, but then today, I will not, in as far as I condemn their action, I also will condemn what the government is doing to him. But that said, some lawyers are indifferent, just like saying, okay, well, what goes around comes around. Why some are vociferous against the DSS action, the federal government action of keeping him consistently without trial. Others also are saying that, yes, the government should learn, including senior lawyers, senior advocates. Others are saying government should learn from what they are doing to Bauer, what they are doing to Emefiele, that someday a pharaoh might come also that do not know Moses, who will also do the same thing to those in power now. When Emefiele and who were violating court orders, they also didn't know that this day will come. And so that this is the time to quickly, amend our ways and ensure that there's compliance with the rule of law in the land. So generally, opinion is divided. Why, mind you, the economic hardship is vital. And I also think that this will also form part of the discussion at the NBA conference coming up next week. So, but what can be done, what they can do, I'm not aware if some private lawyers, public interest lawyers have gone to court, approached the court to compel, for order of mandamus, to compel the DSS to release him or to enforce his fundamental rights. to freedom pending when he's tried for any offense, if at all.
Oh, wow. The NBA conference will be very interesting because I've seen that there's some lawyers who are very angry with the current NBA president. So I would like to see how that turns out. But away from the legal, aspects of this conversation, is it possible, or do you think that what is playing out here is, the fact that Abdulrasheed Bauer stepped on some big toes while he was EFCC chairman, and so he is seemingly being punished, for the, actions that he took, carried out his job as EFCC chairman? There's jokes about how he accused people of corruption. Now he is behind bars, and the people he accused of corruption are in power.
Yeah, why that cannot be completely ruled out, but like we say in law, he who comes to equity must come. I've been an advocate. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been an advocate of the EFCC as a body is too big and saddled with too many responsibility for anybody that heads that. Let me give you an instance. A situation where the EFCC is the body that will decide who to investigate. They actually investigate. They would decide when to prosecute. They prosecute. And in some cases, in all cases, they recover assets, and then they also manage the assets. And like we all know, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So what the EFCC has is an absolute power, only reporting to the Attorney General. And so if you have a situation where you have an Attorney General who is also, a cousin to the EFCC chairman, they just sit down in the comfort of their house and decide what to do. So against that backdrop, you have assets that are recovered, running into billions, and EFCC is only answerable to one man without handing over those assets to the asset management agency. There's bound to be corruption. And so, in investigating corruption cases, and then you now begin to look at, the allegations of how they manage assets recovered, or how also they handled, the administration of the office, you're certainly going to find, compromise here and there. And that is what has led to the arrest of Abdulrasheed Bauer. That was also what led to the arrest of Ibrahim Magu. That also what led to the arrest of Lamudi, asset management.
Yeah.
So now those you are investigating also are saying that there's corruption deep-rooted, in between your legs. Just the same way the Niger Republic is saying that if you want to, install democracy in Niger, first and foremost, install democracy in your country also. So these are the issues, sir.
Liberal Soshoma, it's always interesting speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking our time and, of course, for joining us this morning. We'll speak with you again.
My pleasure.
All right.
My pleasure.